Oh, man.
Big noise.
So we're gonna go ahead and get it started, my man.
Let's do it.
Childhood. You're the baby, man, of three, and you're the only boy.
Yes, sir.
How the hell was that growing up?
It was good, man. My oldest sister was a little bit older, so she's a little bit too far out of that age range. The middle one, Julia, the one you know, she was a hooper. She played sports, so that's kind of where she was basically my de facto big brother growing up. So that was good, man. Probably, if you ask people that know me, they probably say I was spoiled a little bit. That's why I act the way I do with the refs. Probably might have something to do with me being the only boy, the youngest. But yeah, it was good, man.
Were your sisters hard on you or protective of you, or both?
Both.
Yeah.
I would say both.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, my sister was good at basketball, so she didn't take it easy on me. She used to mess me up until she couldn't anymore.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I would say both.
And see, when I first met you, we were like, I think 11, 12 years old. So I'm not sure if y'all's playing days had finished. I never knew about that till just now, that y'all actually used to lock horns and go one-on-one.
Oh, yeah.
Man, can you remember around about the time where you realized, okay, I've arrived, and you know that I've arrived? You probably don't want to play little bro no more.
That's tough. I would say probably around that age that we started hooping together, maybe 9, 10, when until I got bigger than her, basically, is when it all changed.
Then it was over.
Yeah.
Was it always basketball for you, or did you play any other sports?
Soccer and baseball. I was a goalie. That was probably my best sport, soccer. I was pretty good. Baseball, I had a cannon, just couldn't aim, so I would have a no-hitter and give up like 4 runs to some hidden people. But yeah, basketball was the only one I ever really loved. I was probably better at both baseball and soccer, but I don't know, it was always hoops for me as far as my passion.
Which one you pick up first, though, out of those 3?
I was all around the same time. I can't even remember. I don't think I specialized in any. It was pretty equal growing up. I don't remember which one was first, but.
And that's when you were a little guy then, right?
Little, yeah. I mean, like I said, my sister was playing, so at her games, I'd be running around playing. It was never not in my life, sports. So.
Got you. When did you abandon those other 2 and just say, you know what, it's just hoops? Forget it. High school? High school. So even through middle school, you were still playing soccer and baseball?
Yep.
Never knew that, man.
Yeah, I quit maybe my 7th or 8th grade year, maybe 8th grade year, and then specialized on basketball.
Did you do that on your own volition, or did mom and dad say, hey, man, it's time?
I think that was my own. I think I knew I was too tall probably to be any type of like soccer player at a high level, and then baseball was just so boring, man. I couldn't just sitting there. I don't know, it wasn't for me.
I got you. Yeah. You're the first person who played either baseball or softball to give me a reason besides the fact that it's hot out there.
It is hot too. It's also boring. It's boring and hot.
I got you. You had enough of it, huh?
Had enough.
All right. So you went to Montecasino during your middle school days.
Yeah.
And that's around the time you found the Titans, or maybe we found you. I don't know how that went. Was that your first AAU experience?
So I used to play. My team, I can't remember if it was AAU, but who was that Jinx, the Trojans team with Sidorkis and all those guys? I was playing with the Hoosiers with Keaton Page and Rodney Clark before you guys, so it must not have been my first AAU, because that's who I left for the Titans. Was the Hoosier team with Keaton Page, Rodney Clark, and those guys. So.
What made you leave? Can you remember? Or was that Dad's move?
I think a lot of it had to do, like, we were good, we were winning, but I mean that was Keaton and Rodney's team, and so my job was to get the ball off the board, throw it back to him, and did not even think about putting my hands up on offense, because that thing was not coming to me. And then I don't know, I think that was also because I'm young for my grade, so that was the grade below. That team was a grade below, so I think I needed to join the same grade, like school grade, which was the Titans. So.
Both of those guys did graduate high school in 2008, so you're right about that. Man, I remember when you joined us, and for some reason, a lot of us, not me, I wasn't on the list, used to give you a lot of shit in the beginning, man.
Oh yeah.
But you always dealt with it just fine, and I think a lot of people would be so surprised how not afraid of shit you actually were. Like, you couldn't really intimidate you at all, and you could get it down and dirty as you needed to match whoever you're dealing with, man. Where'd that edge come from?
It's funny that you say that because when I first started with the Titans, I was very scared. I remember going to that practice. The first practice, I believe, in my memory, was at McLean.
Yep.
Obviously, my first time down in those parts. And
Oh, yeah.
My first drill with the Titans was that, so basically like a lane, like defensive lane slide. You're trying to stay in front of somebody the whole time, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, and you only got this side of the court from the lane to the sideline. And my first matchup was with Trey McVay, who was one of the best athletes to this day I've ever seen.
Absolutely.
Even now at this age, he's incredible.
Yeah.
I mean, I remember he took like one cut, and I'm looking at the back of his head, and I'm like, all right, this is a different level than I've been playing at.
Yeah.
I don't know if I belong here. And yeah, there was a lot of shit talked to me, and I don't know where the ability to take that and internalize it, but it was definitely tough at first. Like I was like, all right, this is a different ball game,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and just the shit talking, the athleticism, the speed, the size, everything. And there were some tough times there, but I think ultimately it was the best thing that ever happened to me. Like learning to play with that level, like just a different level of players, a different level of shit talking. Because when you get to the high level, it's like that's a part of it. And if you
Right.
can't take that, you're not going to make it too far in this game.
True.
So.
And listen, I know we as in coaches these days, we talk a lot of noise about how today's young person is in terms of what they can take, what they can't take. We question the mental all the time, but how were your parents or your dad particularly during that time? Was he the type that would bail you out of a situation when it got tough? I guess what I'm basically asking is what brought you back the second day of practice?
No, he pushed me. He challenged me. I mean, he was never the type that was like making me go out to the driveway or making me do these things, but he was just supportive. Like if you want to, like if this is what you want to do, like if you want to be as good as you say you want to be at basketball, then this is a team. These are the guys that you ultimately have to compete with and beat out if you want to make it to these levels. So he's like, I mean, it's up to you. You don't have to go, but if this is what you want, if this life is what you want, then this is where it starts.
Yeah.
So.
Your first year with AAU was your first year at Monte Casino, man. But you were like it seems like you were in two different worlds at the same time. You know, the biggest fish over there, and
Yeah.
then one, sort of a part of the pack when it came to the Titans experience. From my experience,
No, I wasn't. When I was the best player at Monte Casino. Then when I got to Titans, I wasn't even the discussion. I was trying to make the team. There was no me being any type of star on that team for a very long time. It took a long time, but yeah, I was just happy to be there, honestly.
Yeah. Talk about the Monte Casino experience, man. How much different was your mentality, if at all, was it playing middle school ball over there before the spring rolled around?
Yeah, I think it's funny. Like I come back here sometimes. I've worked out with you at Central around some young guys, and so like it's hard to remember exactly how you were at that age, but I do remember thinking that I was the man at Monte Casino because you only know what you know. Like if you've never seen other, like a lot of these kids that I'll run into like here or at Central, they don't know how many good basketball players there are out there. Mm-hmm. They only know the environment that they're in. So at Monte Casino, it was sweet. Like I was the one talking the shit. I was the one getting the buckets, and then I came over there, and it was a rude awakening. But again, best thing that ever happened to me was switching from had I just stayed on that course and went to Bishop Kelly and stayed in my little bubble, the little Catholic school bubble. I don't think I'm still playing to this day. So
did you have a lot of say so on what the high school move was going to be for you?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if you remember this. I visited Central. I visited Booker T. I knew I didn't want to go to Bishop Kelly because I had went to the tryout, and I was pretty good. It's not like I was O.J. Mayo or LeBron James, but I was a good middle school player. Like I should have made the varsity team, and I remember they didn't even put me on the JV team after the first tryout. So I was like, all right, I'm good on that. Mm-hmm. And then went to Central, went to
Booker T,
and Edison, and then ultimately just it's close to the house.
Right.
That was the district, so
it turned out to be a good fit, though, man.
It did. They were terrible at that time, and then but Coach Parrish had just taken the job. Mm-hmm. Met with him. I don't think he even knew really who I was, but he was cool, a lot of energy. He said, if you're good enough from the get-go, you'll start, and that ended up happening. Freshman year, got some starts. We took a lot of L's, but it was good for me to get that experience, and then.
I respect that, man, because I tell my athletes now, like, listen, I can't tell you, well, yes, I can. I said, I'm going to tell you what to listen for in the statements that might sound flattering, but you want to stay away from. Because had he told you, hey, man, you come over here, you're going to start. Yeah. You're going to do this, that, I'm like, oh, man, Here we go. Even though he may have turned out to be right, but as a coach, maybe I'm just being biased. You don't want to just give your balls away just that quick.
No, absolutely. Yeah, you want to make them earn it. Yeah, for sure. That's what they did to me in college. Actually, is they gave me all these promises, and I got there, and it was the exact opposite situation. I thought that I had something, and it did not turn out to be that way. But yeah, Parrish did it right. He said, "Hey, come in and earn it, and it's yours." Because I do think at that time, probably more old school coaches than you or these coaches. But at one time, I'm sure there was coaches that if you're a freshman, you're not playing unless you're just. So I mean, I think it's got to be a balance. You don't want to just give them something, but you want to give them the chance to earn it if they're able to.
And if they earn it, man, don't play with them.
Yeah.
Don't keep it from them.
Yeah.
Can you remember that welcome to high school moment once you became a freshman? Was there a shift at all, or were you pretty much ready for whatever?
No, I was not ready for it, but I always acted like it. I remember, I won't say his name, but there's a guy at Booker T who was a really good player on one of those really good teams, and I was a freshman. I wasn't really good. I was just out there because I was tall, and I would make open shots, and I tried really hard, and we didn't have much. But so it's not like I was like a very effective player as a freshman on varsity. But I remember playing against this guy. He was power 4. I think he played in college somewhere, but he was a monster. He's how old is a senior? 18.
Oh yeah.
I was 14, and I remember at the end of the game, I you know how my elbows tend to fly a little bit, even to this day. Just got gangly arms, but I caught him pretty smooth with an elbow, and he looked at me. He's like, I'm going to beat you up, not in such nice words. And I remember, well, we're allowed to cuss.
Oh, yeah,
I remember just being like, not believing in my heart, but I was like, fuck you, I'll beat your ass.
Yeah, yeah.
And I knew in my heart that would never happen at all. And I hope to God that it didn't get to that point, but that just was like, well, I'm here now. I can't
let him see it.
I can't let him see it. But I would not have won that fight, and I did not want that fight to happen. But
Caught him with the elbow. Now listen, was it on a rebound or did you have the ball in the post making a move?
Man, I don't.
Better yet, was it intentional?
It was not intentional.
Okay.
Maybe a little bit. You know how we were taught, man. When we were in high school, if you get the rebound, you get your elbows up and you turn around. I knew he was over here, but I thought he would have moved. He did not move. Caught him pretty clean. He didn't like it, and yeah, that was. But I remember being like, all right, this is. Yeah, that was probably because it was my first game, I think, and I was like, all right, we're here now. It's a different ball game.
See, you mentioned that y'all didn't have a very good year, particularly your freshman year, and I remember that. I'm gonna act like I don't, but I remember y'all sort of stair-stepped and got progressively better all 4 years that we were in high school, and y'all sort of laid the groundwork for the next 3 years. I want to say after we graduated, Edison was in the state tournament. They got to every round of it, just didn't quite jump over the hump, but you were a part of that. But y'all sophomore year, which would have been our sophomore year, 04, 05, man, that was a really good Edison team. Why in the hell did you not play in the playoffs, man? Walk us through that.
You're going to bring that up. All right, tough one. Okay, so yeah, we had a good team, man. We had a lot of talented seniors. I was kind of coming into my own at that point. But this whole, I've always had a temper. Everybody knows that with the referees, with just had a temper. And I remember being at practice, and one of the assistant coaches was on me pretty good before playoffs were about to start, and we were in the old upstairs gym, and got mad, and there was a bulletin board, and it looked softer than it was. I punched it, broke my hand, still got a scar to this day, and then that was a wrap for my season. And, obviously we did not perform like we hoped to in the playoffs. So sorry to everybody on that team. Sorry to the seniors of that team. I apologize.
Now, I just remember y'all lost to Rogers, right? Was that who eliminated y'all that year in the first round?
Yeah, it was.
And listen, that was one of the years that we were really bad at Central that year, and y'all were one of the worst ass whoopings that we took that year. So it was like, this team's gonna go the distance. And then I heard that, I said, what?
Yeah. And
then they told me the story about you breaking your hand. I said, okay, well, it makes perfect sense.
Yeah, it makes a little more sense. Yeah, that was. My bad, fellas.
Happens, man. Shit happens. You said something though that stuck out to me. Is that when you would say that your game started to blossom, somewhere between 9th going into 10th?
I don't know, man. AD, it was kind of like you and Derek Lewis. I think we all were super late bloomers, and it was more of it was never like for instance, Blake Griffin. I remember he was always good, and then one summer he went from like the Blake that we had known to something else.
Something totally different.
He was a different species.
We played against him a few times.
Yeah, before he was Blake Griffin. But mine was never like that. It was just gradual. You know, like I never had like a crazy growth spurt or athleticism boost. It was just I just worked on my game consistently and got a little bit better every year, and kind of still feel like I'm just kind of adding a little bit here and there. But it was never, you know, I always took it seriously. There was never just one big jump. But I do think going into my junior year of high school, I knew that I knew for sure that I could play in college and possibly more, and kind of started working towards that.
Another interesting thing, man, because I don't know where my mind was going through that whole experience from like 6th grade all the way until graduation, but I didn't really set my eyes particularly on college basketball until it was like late in the game.
Really?
Man, but yeah, I don't necessarily know. It probably wasn't the best thing, but I don't think it was the worst thing either, because the game sort of stayed pure to me, and that's the way I always tried to approach it. And guys like the ones you mentioned, Derek, yourself, we all sort of shared that, I think.
Right.
Just like, listen, we're going to do this the right way. We're going to put in the time. We weren't blessed with the gifts abundantly like a lot of our teammates and counterparts were. So I think we held it, you know, it was near and dear to our heart, work ethic and stuff like that.
Yeah, it meant more to us, I think. Not everybody. Like there was a lot of guys that cared about it, but I think just of the original guys, you, me, and Derek probably cared the most, and kind of just slowly kept going up. And obviously, some of those guys ended up playing and having great careers, but just in my memory, it was you, me, and Derek kind of just always worked on the fundamentals. Like you said, we didn't have the athleticism, so we just worked on getting that jump shot right, pass, dribble, just reading the game, and then as we grew into our bodies, we just incrementally, you know, kept rising.
Great word, incrementally, right there. Can you remember any moments where you maybe didn't realize how good you actually were, or a time where you thought you were better than you actually were? And I'm going to tell you where that question comes from. I think my little superpower as a player was I always knew what I was and what I wasn't.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
And that was helpful to me.
Yeah. There was some games, man. I remember. It's like everybody thinks that they're better than they are in high school, mostly. But I was always pretty realistic. Like I knew you would play against guys, and you're just like, all right, that's a different level. Like OJ Mayo was basically the LeBron James of our year, and I remember I had started to be pretty good when we played him. I had started to have some success both in high school and AAU, and getting some looks from college, and then playing against him, I was like, all right, well, there's levels to this thing, and he is a different one. Blake as well. Playing in the Phase 7 game with Blake in practice, I had started to like lift weights a little bit. I was always a finesse player, but by that point I was getting a little bit of strength for the first time in my career, and I remember thinking I was strong, and then my first time I got the ball, he was defending. I remember trying to make a post move, and he's just built different, just bounced off of him. There was zero chance that I was ever going to move that man in my entire life. And then I just realized that maybe, there's levels to it. And then as far as the flip side, you have to give me a second to think about that one. But
It's all good. I mean, I know for a fact I had some moments where I'm like, oh, as good as I thought I was, damn, I just got humbled.
Yep.
I think one of those times, our senior year, our second game of the season, we went over to hell, and man, I don't know what happened, man, but I just got rattled, and they could tell I was rattled, and I just was tight, man, and stunk it up.
Yep.
And I felt so bad. I felt sophomoric. I'm like, dude, I'm a senior, man. I'm the captain. What's going on here?
Yeah.
Homecoming king, all that shit. Didn't mean a thing over there. And we got beat. And then we had to listen to the overrated chants because we were fresh off the championship and all that good stuff. And I was like, couldn't get out of that building fast enough.
Yeah, man, that's tough. That's how it is sometimes, man. That's why I still love basketball to this day. It's because, like, nothing will humble you faster, and nothing will give you those life lessons that you really need, that you are, no matter how good you are, one bad day in this sport, you're going to look very bad. You're going to be humbled and embarrassed, and keeps you sharp.
Speaking of the humility of it, the coaches we played for, you know, when we played with the Titans, we talking about the late, great Lester Johnson, the late, great Mike Gillum, Derek Lewis Sr., and he particularly, in my mind, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but in my mind, he was the toughest on you out of all three of those coaches that I just named. And I didn't name Marco Harris.
Yeah, the toughest on me was definitely D-Lo. Loved that man. But yeah, he just kind of like I mentioned earlier, just like that whole shit-talking culture, Coach Lewis was vital to my growth as being able to receive hard coaching, because God knows at the next levels I would eventually start to see some of it. It was never like, it was D-Lou, and then some of these other guys who were hard on us, and then once you get to college, it was like another D-Lou times, on steroids, and it got real again. So, but D-Lou was the first coach that would, he would go there.
He'd definitely call you out, man, and get up with you. But he would do that to everybody, but it always seemed like, for some reason, it was always y'all two at some point, man.
Yeah, well, that's because I was a little cocky, talking back, little spoiled kid, so I'm sure it pissed him off, and then he pissed me off, and it was just, back and forth.
It was always respect, though. I noticed that even then, because there was always a line that you wouldn't cross. Therefore, there was a line that he didn't ever have to cross.
Yeah. I find I'm pretty good with referees and everybody finding that line and staying right below it.
Yeah.
But I'm up there. I'm gonna touch that line.
Do you remember when your AAU experience started to become more fruitful for you in terms of you figuring it out? Like, okay, I got a place on this team that's pretty good, and I'm not just a face in the crowd taking up a uniform. I'm in the mix. Can you remember that?
Yeah, I mean, there was so many like post players that we had throughout the Titans thing. I think first it was Marvellis, who was just a athlete that was a different level of athlete, and he was better than me. But like I said, just slowly and surely sticking with the fundamentals and doing the little things right, I passed him. And then there was a couple other guys, and that we would always bring in, you always want to bring in players as an AU program, and it's our job to beat those players out.
Yeah.
But I remember, I think in our junior year, it started to. Before that, it was the guards. Most of the guards, we had some incredible guards.
Yeah, man.
Chris, Marcus, Ronald, all these guys, and it was kind of their show. And then junior year, I remember the offense kind of started going in my hands a lot more. A lot of stuff from the high post, and so that junior year is when I started playing well in AAU, and I think I got my first Division I offer then, and so around junior year.
Got your first offer. Who was it from? You remember?
Colgate.
Colgate,
It's
okay.
in the, what league is that? I can't even remember what league it's in. It's in New York. That was my first one.
How'd you feel when you first got it, man? Did that change something in you, or was it just like, oh, this is cute?
It did. I mean, because it took so long. It was until going into my senior year even that I got it. I felt that I was a D1 player. I had successfully, I thought that I had dominated some guys that were already signed. So I was super frustrated. Obviously, TU or you didn't offer me, which kind of hurt my recruiting because other teams were like, well, if they didn't offer you, there must be something wrong. But once I finally got that, I was like, it was kind of just like the weight off my shoulders. I was like, all right, I know I'm going to be a Division I player. It's just a matter of what level. But yeah, I mean, I remember that day. It was a great day. More of like a finally type of feeling. But
What about, you mentioned some of those bigs, man. I'm going to throw some names at you that came through the Titans organization. Yourself, Matt Romine. I'm not sure if y'all were ever on the team together.
We were.
Y'all were?
Yep, he was in that Phoenix trip we were talking about. Yeah.
You're right, just came back. Marvellis Cosper, Mark Moncrief. You know what I mean?
Goat.
I'm telling you, he's like a Tulsa Titans legend for
Yes,
all the right or the wrong reasons, whichever one you want to. I love him dearly. Wayne Jackson. And then I'm fuzzy after that, but
there's a guy. Yeah, there's a couple more that we brought in that didn't stick as long as those other mentioned guys. But yeah, those are the ones I remember as well.
Man, talk about some of those practices. Reggie Ross, man. Yeah, that's right, man. God, that's a lot. So practices used to be live, man. What was your mindset going into those practices versus going into the school ball practices? Because y'all had some good teams over here. That's why I brought that up.
At Edison?
Yeah, during your time.
We did, but there was no after Keith Marks left so he was, I guess that was our sophomore year. Then there was nobody that could really mess with me in the front court. So and the front court was mine. I was just how many points I want to score on a given day. No offense to whoever was backing me up, but in AAU is like you had to come to work. You had to come to like the Titans. You had to come and earn it every day because Wayne was a beast in high school, and he got there I don't remember when he got there, but it was later.
10th grade year.
10th grade, yeah. So, but I mean, there was always dogfights in there, man. Those were the fun days. You'd leave with scratches all over your chest, face, everything. Those were fun.
And the master instigator, like you just named a while ago, Coach Lewis.
Oh, absolutely.
It seemed like we were scrimmaging for 2 hours straight.
Absolutely.
With fresh legs because he's putting the battery in our backs for some reason. I love it.
Yeah.
But how crazy was this? The fact that we pretty much not all, but most of us played school ball in the same conference. So we were lining up from each other all year long.
Yeah, man, that also made it extra fun too because you got the bragging rights both ways. So.
Yeah, and there's teams got to be competitive to where it's like when you got Marcus out at McLean, they were tough. You out here at Edison, pretty tough. Us over there at Central were pretty tough. Yeah. But I would always look forward to us coming together in the spring so we could talk that shit.
Oh yeah.
But now we get to be on teams and take our show on the road,
oh, yeah.
man. And that wasn't too bad. Okay, so I noticed your game started to evolve though, as we got later into high school. Now you're stepping out. You could always shoot the three, but for some reason, maybe it was because of coach's wishes that you couldn't do it as often as maybe you wanted to. But I see you stepping away from that goal more often. And what's underrated is guys like yourself and Wayne, two of the most willing passers,
right.
In the post that I've seen, and you can see the floor pretty well.
Yeah.
Do you remember when, I guess, the training wheels sort of came off under Coach Parrish's instruction, where he's like, okay, you can sort of do your thing a little more? And when that happened with the Titans, where they started to trust you more?
Yeah, I mean, as far as stepping out from the three, I always was a pretty efficient jump shooter. But, when I got to high school as a freshman and sophomore, at that point you're just trying to do whatever you can to stay on the floor. So my job was taking charges, rebounding, trying to finish around the rim, and he would let me shoot a wide open three. If I'm wide open, he let me shoot it. If I make the first one, he let me shoot again. Those are kind of my rules.
There you go.
And then I don't remember when it was. Maybe that summer after. Maybe I started getting a little bit more of a green light with the Titans, which carried over. But yeah, by the time I was junior or senior at Edison, I was shooting not a ton of threes, but one or two a game, and I think I shot like 55% my senior year, which was possibly more than my 2-point percentage, which isn't ideal, but yeah.
That's pretty dang good though, man.
Yeah, it was.
But there's one game I want to bring us back to, which was our junior year. It was I don't know where it was for you guys on your schedule, but I'm a nerd for this, so I remember a lot of stuff. So I remember we played you guys the next to last game of the regular season. It was our senior night. Right, and we ended up going to overtime, maybe 2 overtimes.
I do remember
and
this.
You and Mark Rutledge went nuts. It was like, I think you had like 38, he had like 36, or other way around, or something like that.
Was there a game winner in this game, or am I misremembering that? Who won?
We ended up winning.
That's what I thought. You guys won that one, right?
But I don't. No. Okay, so the game winner was at Edison when you didn't play. The season opener.
Okay.
Yeah. And you were not happy, man.
I was not happy.
But man, what goes in? Do you feel it when you get into that zone where you just cooking, man? Do you notice it then, or are you just in the moment, just playing?
It's in the moment, man, and that's part of the reason why I can't seem to retire, because there's no feeling like when you get in the zone and you're no longer thinking about everything else. You're just in the zone, in the moment, talking shit. The goal seems bigger, everything seems bigger. So I do remember that game, and yeah, man, there's no feeling like it. I wish we would have closed it out, but
yeah, for sure. How good was it for you to have a running mate? Did you foresee that? Because I remember you talked about when Big Marks left, you were the guy, but then here you got a night.
In the front court, yeah, in the front court.
But then no disrespect to anybody else, but when it comes to the guards that you played with, the first one that I think about during that era is Mark.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
So how did it feel having a dance partner that could go get busy to the same level you could?
I mean, it was great. It was a 1-2 punch that we needed. Obviously, I was big guy, post player, and then he's attacking the rim, doing guard stuff. But Mark and I's relationship was really good because he was like I said, once our sophomore year, once those guys left, it was kind of my team, and I was still not the most mature. I was not the most easy to deal with. And Mark would call me out. He was the only one on that team. Well, there's one other guy, but it doesn't matter. But Mark would call me out. We would get into it in practice. Always brothers, always love off the court. But he kept me kind of accountable. Still very close to this day. But yeah, it was great. I mean, Mark was a perfect high school teammate for me.
Now we got to talk about your senior season. You guys finally break through, get to the state tournament, man. Talk about that whole run leading up, and then that last game that you unfortunately played a little earlier than you wanted to.
Yeah, you're kind of like my dad, man. He remembers way more than me. I don't know if it's because I blocked it out of my memory, but I don't remember leading up to it. I do remember the game. I remember being really confident. I thought we were going to win it all. I really, really did. And we're playing Color Albert. Close game the whole game. I remember Rutledge got hurt. I don't remember at what point he got hurt, but he broke his nose.
Oh.
Yeah, and I think he left at halftime. I'm pretty sure he left at halftime. So that was a big loss for us. And then
I never knew that.
yeah, I don't remember specifics about the game other than I do know that we were up 1 close, like with not much time left, and I didn't make mistakes like this much, and I don't think I've made one like this since, but I remember I think I fouled thinking we were down 1. I looked at the score and got the score wrong. So I think I had a huge blunder that kind of hurt us in that time. But it was also, without Mark, it was a tough game anyways. But I remember that making a mistake like that towards the end of the game that really hurt us. And yeah, that was one of like the losses in my career that I still remember to this day.
Yeah, so. Man. Golly. And they were the eventual champs. I mean, I know that didn't make it
we were
better
than them. There was no question in my mind. They had nobody that could deal with me. And had Mark been healthy, I think we win by 10. But yeah, that was a tough one.
Hey man, what do you say to those who, and by those I'm talking about coaches during that time, who were under the impression that they could speed you up, meaning we could just get this game going, moving at such a pace that we could nullify Will Creekmore and get him to have to sit down. Because I never bought into that. I was like, listen, man, at some point this game going to slow down or whatever you want to say. First of all, he can move better than you think.
Yeah.
And when the game is half court, you're going to have to deal with him.
Right. I mean, yeah, that was definitely, it seems like what they would try to do. Obviously, there's parts like if it's a full transition game, in theory, sounds good. But like I said, on offense, we're gonna go however slow we gotta go to give me the ball in the post. And then at that point, like, I think what made me a pretty good player, it was never the athleticism, it was because I could read the game well. So that not bothered me on the offensive end. Maybe on the defensive end, I didn't like chasing y'all around, but offensively, it didn't bother me. And
just because you don't like to, that doesn't mean that you couldn't. Those are two different statements.
I could do it when I was motivated. Then when I got to college and was kind of held accountable to playing defense, then I became a pretty good defender. But I was not a particularly good defender in high school, in my memory. My dad will make me watch games every now and then when I'm back visiting, and I'll watch myself on defense compared to offense, and it's a bit more effort on the offensive end.
Yeah. Well, I heard some years ago, Coach Scott told me, he said, listen, offense always trumps defense when it comes to commitment.
That it does.
And that's a fact. Okay, so before we leave the high school chapter, you talked about Coach Parrish a little bit, and his name will pop up, I'm pretty sure, as we continue talking. But talk about the other coaches on your staffs. Was there any turnover from your freshman year to your senior year as far as the assistant coaches?
Lots of them.
Okay.
Lots of them.
Yeah. Who were they, and how impactful were they?
Coach Ships was one of the there's, you mentioned some earlier, Coach Johnson, Coach Lewis, Coach Harris. Coach Ships is another guy that's on my short list of people that made a difference in my life because another military man. He held me accountable. Helped me with my work ethic, things like that. Teddy Owens, who's at Hall and Hall.
I know exactly. Right? Yeah, I know who Teddy is. I did.
Teddy was there. He's actually. I love Teddy. He was young when he got that job. He was. I don't know how old he was at that time, but me and him used to go at it pretty hard, and he's actually who I was mad at when I broke my hand on the wall. Shout out Teddy. And then we had Lance Kroll, who was a big guy, 7-foot guy that had. I think he was a McDonald's All-American or something. He was there for a little bit. Jamal West,
West, cool ass West.
Yeah, we had a lot of guys that came around, but Coach Ships was definitely the one that I remember made the most impact, other than Parrish, as far as the high school side of it.
All right. So you go to college, man. You end up going to Boston University, right? Right out of high school.
Yeah.
When did they come into the picture?
Late. So I was heavily under-recruited, in my opinion.
Right.
I had a ton of teams that were really circling the wagon, just never pulled the trigger. And I actually committed to a prep school because I was young for my grade. I committed to a prep school out in California.
Didn't know that either. Damn.
Yeah, so I had some real interest from really big teams. Stanford, I remember, was serious. Oklahoma was serious. Jeff Capel, I remember going and meeting with him, and he didn't have a scholarship for me out of high school, but he said if I went to prep school, they much better chance. Arizona. So there were some good schools hovering. And the only reason I even took the Boston visit was because you have 5 official visits that you can take, and I was just like, well, I might as well take them just for fun. And I went out there, fell in love with it. It was a good time. The official visit was a good time.
Yeah.
Saw some things I hadn't seen previously, and just committed on the spot. And that was Yeah, not the right decision.
But hindsight.
Hey, look, everything works the way it's supposed to, but it did not work out there for me.
When you were taking these visits, were your parents going too, or were you by yourself on any of them? If you can remember.
That's the only one that I went on, I believe, as far as official visits. I had one scheduled at Hawaii the following week, but I canceled it. I don't remember if they came or not, actually.
And the only thing that made me ask that question is because you said you made that decision right there on the spot. And in my mind, if one of them was there with you, particularly Pops, he probably would have, let me get that ink pen, son.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I can't. That does make sense. I can't remember if it was on this, if he was there when I told him or not. But when I decided to, that's where I wanted to go, he was obviously supportive.
Perfect.
I'm sure he would have liked me to play a little closer to home, but I mean,
Right.
with the schools that were recruiting me at that time weren't exactly close either. Hawaii, Pepperdines, they was all on the West Coast or the East Coast.
True. And I heard a wise man told me one time, you don't necessarily get to go where you want to go. You got to go where they want you.
Go where the opportunity is, for sure.
That makes sense. So you weren't home in Tulsa pretty much at all during the summer of 2007, were you?
No,
pretty much graduation and you were out of here.
Yeah, we left pretty early for summer school in Boston. Yeah.
How was it? How was the summer experience as a student, as an athlete, and just being in a different region of the country, man?
Man, it was really good. Parts were really bad. I remember I was not physically prepared for the college level of workouts, anything. I remember my first practice there. There was the warm-up part of the individual workout, and I couldn't finish it. I straight up couldn't finish it. The coach said, what is wrong with you? I was skinny fat. I was not ready for the conditioning of a college program and did not make it through that warm-up. Took me a long time to get adjusted to that speed. The coach, very, very hard coach to play for. Very, the East Coast Boston dude, say whatever he wants to you.
Yeah.
So like you said, Coach Lewis and a couple other coaches were tough on me, but some of, it's different being called a MFN. Some of the words chosen in college were different than anything I'd heard before. So it was a bit jarring, but as far as off the court, a lot of fun. A lot of fun in Boston. First time being away from home. I think the Red Sox. My dorm was right down the street from Fenway, so they won the World Series that year. So that was a cool experience. Off the court, it was awesome. I loved it, but it just didn't work out in the basketball program. I wasn't ready at that time.
Right. So if you sound like you're not running from accountability at this point.
Oh no.
So would you say it was more you than it was the circumstances as to why Boston didn't work out?
I think majority me. I wasn't ready. I was still mouthy. I was picked to be the preseason rookie of the year in that conference, in the preseason magazine. So I thought that it was going to be sweet. I thought it was going to be catered to me a little bit. And that first practice, learned that it was not going to be sweet. It's funny. My roommate at the time, his name's John Holland. He played in the NBA. He's still playing overseas, very, very high level overseas. And him and I were just the black sheep of that class. Both of us still playing to this day, but the coach absolutely despised both of us.
Right.
Made our lives hell. I remember we came late to the second practice, and for the next 5 weeks we had to ride 7 miles on the bike before we could even enter the gym. It was tough. It was a different world, but it was good for me, man. It was good for me.
It was good for you. At any point, maybe you thought about moving around, but did you ever think about quitting at all?
Quitting basketball?
Yeah.
Never that. No.
It was
a lot of turmoil. I wanted to leave for a long time, but it all kind of came to a halt at Christmas break.
You were playing though up to that point?
So I played 3. The team had played maybe 10 to 15 games. I had only played in 3, but I had started to kind of carve out a bit of a spot, and it was getting better. But some stuff happened at Christmas break, and the decision was kind of made for me. The team mutually decided to go different ways. But I never thought about quitting basketball.
I got you. Never got that low.
Never got that low.
I love it. The tough guy mentally. So, did you not even go back to Boston after the Christmas break? You just came home and stayed home? Is that how that went?
I went straight to Springfield, Missouri, to Missouri State, I believe. I packed my stuff up from Boston after midterms.
Right.
So I'm sure I came back to Tulsa to regroup, but straight to Springfield and got right into it there.
Man, so I would imagine you must have been in some conversations. You didn't just show up cold, did you? What's up, Missouri State? I'm here.
Yeah, Coach Henson. Coach Henson recruited me in high school. They didn't have an offer for me, an official scholarship offer for me. So when I left, it was Hawaii, Indiana State, Pepperdine, and Missouri State. Missouri, nobody can offer you a scholarship at mid-semester, so Missouri State had some academic stuff that they helped me with, and they were also building that new the new arena, which excited me. So I didn't take a visit. I just committed. I believe I just committed when they said that I had a spot. So
for sure, I know that sounds promising. But did Missouri State being closer to home impact that at all?
Absolutely,
okay.
Yeah.
You want to be in arm's reach a little bit more?
Yes.
That sounds good. Now here's something that doesn't get mentioned a lot of times. You know about it, but did your credits, all of them, transfer over from Boston to Missouri State?
Most of them. I think most of them. I think I lost a couple of them, but
the kids don't be thinking about that when they talk about moving around. Like, hey man, you backing up graduation if that's your goal.
No, I was a couple credits behind. I actually had to finish. Like when I left to go turn professionally after my senior year at Missouri State, I actually had to finish some overseas just because. Yeah, I guess you're right. The rookie or the freshman year credits didn't transfer. So think about that, kids.
Were you able to be in the mix at all during that second semester, even though you weren't playing? Were you able to, work out every day with the guys?
So practice? I was on the team, basically just like I got there at mid-season, so I was kind of always on the team, like the scout team. So whoever, and it was good. It was great for me because whoever the best like skilled big on the other team was, I would just get to play that big and get my shots up and just really play offense the whole time. So that was good.
You busting somebody's ass at all?
Busting some ass a little bit, but I was also still very young at that time and playing against some of these guys that were 22 grown men. But I was making shots and I realized that I could do it at that level. It took me a while because when I first got there, they're in mid-season form. I'm kind of all screwed up, but at the end of the season, I started making some shots and I was like, all right, I think I could play here because I was a walk-on at that point in Missouri State.
Basically. So since you were scout team, were you getting much instruction individually?
Yeah.
Okay.
Because I believed that I was going to be good. I think some of the other coaches started to believe that I was going to be good, and I remember there was one in particular, Cayenne Brown. He's a coach at Omaha, Nebraska now, but he's a big guy, put in a ton of work with me. I had him up at all hours of the night trying to get workouts in, even though I wasn't playing. So I appreciate him for that. But
that's good. Then you roll into the following season, which on paper you would have been a sophomore.
So it was my sophomore year. I was eligible at Christmas break, so I missed the first half of the season and then played the second one.
Yeah. How was your impact, man?
It was good. I was still didn't have the grown man strength, didn't have the physical strength that some of the other guys had, but I was shooting the ball really well. I think I averaged 8 or 9 points, 20 minutes or so. I think I was a backup, started a couple of games, but it was good to get my feet wet a little bit and figure out that I could play at that level.
Was it important for you to be a starter?
It was.
See, it was.
All these things were, like, I wish I'd say it was. All these things mattered to me a lot. Division I, playing Division I and not Division II, all those things that I would recommend not matter to somebody. If I was giving the advice, they mattered to me a lot. Yeah. Starting mattered to me a lot. I was an absolute egomaniac.
Yeah. But I would imagine you found yourself in some situations where, even when you didn't start, you were on the court in those minutes that truly matter.
Well, when I was my sophomore year, I guess, like, if someone's better than me, I can accept coming off the bench. It's if I think I'm better than that person that I'm not coming off, that I don't want to come off the bench.
Yeah,
in my sophomore year, there was a guy that was a higher level than me, so I don't think I had a problem with it. But when the junior season came around, when the workout started, my goal was to be the starter and to leave very little doubt.
Gotcha.
So
now, when you first got to Missouri State, was Henson still coaching there?
Henson was there my freshman year when I was sitting out, and he got fired after that year. And then Coach Conzo Martin took over from my sophomore year.
Right. Who we both know, you know what I mean? He's the brother of our AAU coach, Marco Harris. So that's yet another adjustment that you had to deal with.
Yes, it was.
How much of an adjustment was he? How much different, rather, was Coach Martin from either one of your previous coaches? Henson for a short stint, and the maniac, as you call him, up in Boston for a short while.
Coach Martin, anybody that knows college basketball, like, he comes from the Gene Cady Purdue coaching tree. I actually took a visit to Purdue when I was in high school,
Right.
and I remember watching it was the day of the game, and their shoot around was unbelievably hard. I remember they had like med balls, like dunking med balls,
Ooh.
and some full contact stuff. So I knew that it was going to be physically demanding. I was not ready for how physically demanding it was going to be because
Right.
Coach Martin came in there, and I don't know this. I haven't talked to him about this, but I imagine that he wanted to weed out who was not tough enough to play in the Purdue system. So those first few weeks of workouts were like unlike anything I've ever seen in my entire life, man. Types where you're waking up in the morning like questioning if you still want to play basketball anymore because you're so scared of the workouts. It was some it was some brutal ones, but man, I always say he taught me what real work ethic was. He taught me like how to be a grown man. He taught me a lot, but though it was not for the faint of heart, and some people were weeded out.
That was gonna be my follow-up question. Anybody fall off?
And some people fell off. People definitely fell off. Could not handle it. And but once you proved to him that you could handle it, that you were one of his guys, and he rocked with you heavy. And I think that's why he had so much success after Missouri State, is because people want to run through a brick wall for him because he's a leader of men. He commands respect. So.
And you played for him for what, 2.5 years?
Yep.
Man, God dog. Did you see your role growing from year to year? Or
Yeah,
were
it's
you a starter
interesting,
from your junior senior year?
I started both years for him. It's interesting because, like you said, I was always kind of like a finesse, skilled player, and then we had so many shooters. My junior team was pretty good at Missouri State. We won the CIT championship, and we had everybody coming back. So we thought that we had a chance to be really, really good, and we had a lot of shooters. So he asked me to basically just gain a ton of weight, be the enforcer, 5-man, and like just hook shots inside, post play, rebound, defend the 5. So. Like I said, I would have ran through a brick wall for that man. I did that. I gained about 30 pounds.
Straight muscle.
I was huge. I was
Man.
a monster. Couldn't move. Couldn't shoot anymore. I lost all of my touch, but I did that job. I held it down in the middle a little bit. I was like 250. Right now I'm like 225 for comparison's sake. I was 250, all muscle. But yeah, so he asked me to change my style. Did it for him. So I saw my role go from guys getting pick and pop opportunities to don't shoot outside the lane.
Yeah.
Be physical.
That sounds like a difficult task to put on 30 pounds, period, but definitely 30 pounds of muscle.
It was fun, man. It was fun at the summer pool parties, I'll say that.
Yeah, there you go. You're coming out the shirt willingly, huh?
The wife beater.
Yeah. You know it.
Around campus.
Let me ask you this, man, before we talk about your pro chapter, man. How important is it, in your opinion, for teammates to rock with each other on a personal level? Because, and as guys, I think we usually find our way to some brotherhood pretty quickly, but I don't necessarily know if it has to be like that in order for us to get the task done. You dig?
As far as
makes
like
it
the
easier.
from
a
team
standpoint,
success,
yeah.
I think it's better if you do rock with each other, but it's not like a prerequisite. Like I think you can still win games if, like, as long as people take it seriously. I think is the important thing. Like if everyone's on the same page, same goals, I don't really think, I need to want to like go to dinner with you or have coffee with you. You know what
True.
I'm saying? Like as long as you're all working towards the same thing and the work ethic is the same, I think you can get around not liking them. But I think the best teams I've played for, it felt like a family. Like Missouri State, we didn't make the tournament, but we won the first Missouri Valley Conference championship, and we were a real family. Like everybody was on the same page. Everybody was sacrificing. Like I sacrificed my role, my minutes. Everybody made sacrifices, and I think that was probably the best team I've ever been on.
That's big time, man. That's big time. Well, we're gonna jump back into it, man. So, you after college, I'm fascinated at the process of becoming a professional because I always tell everybody who is that when I get to sit across from them, I'm like, I don't know what the first thing is to do to get ready for that. So, is it getting filmed together, or are you on the phone, trying to find agents to hire? Or are they reaching out to you? What does that look like?
You want them to reach out to you, the agents. So I remember my senior year, Coach Martin called me to his office, and usually when he did that, it was
Something
not good.
Yeah.
Something, there was some stuff, but this time he was like, "Look, I don't know what your plans are, but I just had a scout call about you, NBA scout."
Did your eyes get big?
They got big. I actually I didn't think that I was gonna be an NBA player. I thought that I was gonna play very high level European ball. I had seen Caleb Ebby do some of these stuff, and I kind of knew that the NBA was changing in a way that probably wasn't conducive to my game. But I had a good enough junior and senior year that mid-season I started having agents reach out. I was talking to quite a bit of them. So, you know, that's kind of where it started. And then just you pick the guy that you feel is going to give you the best chance, and then you just get him some tape and then hope for the best. Strap in and hope for the best. And that really matters. Your agent, by the way.
It really does. So, how soon after that did you pick up some traction and figure out, you know, when and where your job would be, your next job?
Yeah, so that got complicated because, you know, I transferred at semester my freshman year and then started playing my sophomore year. So essentially, I didn't play my freshman year at all. Only played half of my sophomore year. So it's only 2.5 years really of college basketball. So I applied for one more year at Missouri State with the NCAA. I thought I had a really good case, hired a lawyer and everything, and they didn't rule back until school had already started and most of the overseas jobs were gone. So I had to tell my agent, like, don't even look yet because I'm trying to come back for one more year. And obviously, had I got that year, I would have signed with him anyways. Yeah. But that really hurt me as far as like what my market value would have been after the senior year that I had. You know, that the NCAA took all the way to like I was about to enroll in classes and, you know, start practicing. So when they said no, I had to kind of just take whatever I could get overseas, and ended up being a job that I should have gotten paid much more in a better league, but I just kind of had to take what I could get at that point.
Yeah, where was that?
Germany, second league. Germany was my first job. Money was atrocious. Lived with like 4 dudes in this little house in a terrible German city. It's a decent league actually, but it was like the lowest budget team. And that was not the move.
How long were you there, man? Just that one season?
No, I was there about 3/4 of the season, and team was bad. I was not enjoying it. I was in the process of trying to turn back from being just a straight bully ball 5 into what I more naturally am, which is more of a stretch 5. So I was trying to relearn how to shoot, relearn how to do those things, and I just had a bad season and did not like the coach, did not like being overseas. So I left that team with about 3 months left, and then came back to the D League for the 66ers in Tulsa. Finished out there, sitting the bench for them. Yeah, so that was my rookie season.
Going through the process. Did you even sniff burnout at any point after college? Because if you think about it, man, you've been playing this game at a high level since you were 11, 12 years old.
Yeah, I think I was obsessed with it, man. I don't know why my identity was so wrapped up into being a basketball player, and I was never going to stop until I validated, in my own opinion, us being a successful pro. So there was a lot of, we'll probably get into it, but like my first 3 years were about as bad as you could get. Like, got cut in Germany, played in the D League, didn't play probably like 5 minutes because I was backing up the best 5 in the D League. Then the second year I tried the D League route again, made the team, was playing well, got hurt. Like 2 months in, got cut, and then didn't get anything for the whole of my second year. So at that point, I started to put some feelers out there in other areas of life. But I knew if I could find any way to make it back, I would. And then I got lucky, and my agent actually knew Nick Nurse, who's the Raptors coach. He coached in England for a long time, and basically just his relationship with Nick plugged me into a coach in England. So I got a job there. And that was my 3rd season after sitting out for almost the whole season, which in this industry is a killer. If you're out for a long time, it's really hard to get back in. So I got lucky to get that job and took advantage of that. I think we won the championship. I was MVP in one poll, player of the year, or runner-up in the other one. So it kind of revitalized my career at that point. It was
a grind.
It was on its last legs. So
2 things that I want to ask you from that. First of all, what was the injury?
It was a sprained ankle, man. I shouldn't have gotten cut. I was out like 2 weeks. I just started to play well.
Damn.
But then, mid-season, if you're not someone with a huge name and a lot of credibility overseas, it can be tough to just get picked up mid-season, unless it's like at two certain times. Like at Christmas time, teams make a lot of cuts, so there's a lot of jobs open back up. But I got cut in October, which is people are just getting there. So it's really hard there's not much turnover at that time when I got cut in the D League. So that was surprising. I tried to get on at another D League team. This was a wild story. I actually got a job offer after I healed for the Reno D League team. Got there, signed my contract. They took me to the apartment. My roommate was very nice dude, older. He had played at Texas A&M. I can't remember his name, but he was like, "Hey man, I know they said you hadn't eaten yet. Anything in the fridge you want, you can have it." They had some burgers in the fridge. Ate a burger. Woke up 5 hours later, puking my guts out. Had E. coli. Went to the hospital. Got cut from that team because I couldn't. They needed me right there. So that whole second season, I was like, man, am I supposed to be?
That's
am I supposed to be playing? Yeah. So like literally was in the hospital for 5 days. I practiced when I got there, and that was the only practice I had. Got E. coli, got cut, and then that was my second year as a pro.
Wow. In between these gigs, are you coming back home to Tulsa?
Well, I was in Tulsa for the 66ers,
right?
Because the team was here, and so yeah, I got my my rehab in, got my ankle right, and I was playing pickup at Cassia Hall, Edison, just wherever I could, just trying to hoop wherever I could, stay in shape for when the next opportunity came.
Trying to get that bump. Okay, during this, I'm gonna call it downtime, because you sort of getting up, getting knocked back down. How's your relationship and your interactions with your agent during that time?
So bad. I mean, the problem with him, and the thing, if anyone listens to this that's going to hire an agent, you got to find one that's tailored to your level. So, for instance, the one I went with, he had several NBA guys. Anthony Tolliver, who played at Creighton and played in the NBA a long time, had just retired. He had Blake Ahern, Jason Terry for a little bit. He was probably, essentially, I wasn't as big as a priority to him as I would have liked to have been, and the leagues that he was used to working with weren't necessarily ones that I was qualified for at that point in my career, so he didn't get me much. The only thing he really got me was the England thing, which was a huge deal in my career. It saved my career, but a lot of times it was kind of me getting these offers myself, just networking and being on Facebook and being just proactive with my own career. So I got myself a lot of jobs, and I'm not with that agent anymore. So when I got to Japan, I went a different way with an agent that specializes in Japan. But yeah, it's been interesting.
And it sounds like a lot of on-the-job training going on too. Like, how can you really be prepped for what you're telling me you dealt with?
Man, the first 6 years before I got to Japan, it was just every moment I didn't know if it would be my last job, if I would get another job. I mean, I remember I played in 6 different countries in 1 year, 4 different continents one time. It was just, you're just living out of a suitcase, just hoping that you get that next call, that next offer. No stability, no certainty. You finally, I started to make decent money on some of these jobs, but then, in this industry, you can get cut so quickly. You have a bad game, you're cut. Guys like Caleb and Ebby, they're usually playing in bigger leagues with guaranteed contracts. It took me a long time to get to where I knew that I had a job for 10 months or however long the contract. Whatever I signed for is guaranteed. I knew it took me a long time to get there. It was a lot of lower to mid-level leagues and getting cut and teams being shiesty and all the things, man. So I learned a lot about this business.
On the way to where you are now.
Yeah, it's been better.
Yeah, man. So your next year, you're not going to be here in town for very long, right?
No, I got another week and a half. So this summer, only 17 days back at the crib. Tough one.
And then back to Japan, right?
Back to Japan, yeah.
So how's that experience been? Because this will be season number what in Japan?
This will be my seventh.
Seventh in Japan?
In Japan. 11th, 12th overall. Something like that.
It's crazy.
6 or 7, 11 or 12 overall. Yeah, I'm down. I'm officially the oldest one on my team.
Yeah.
I'm it went fast.
What are the differences in the play style versus over in Japan and other countries versus what you see here in America?
In America and then Europe, it's just much more balanced, right? You got size at every position. You got real dogs at every position. In Japan, in Asia, the Asian leagues in particular, not to say that the Japanese guys can't hoop, they definitely can, but there's a huge size disparity. So the game in Japan is much more relied upon the foreign players. In Europe, guys might average, 20 minutes, 10 points. Everyone's 10 points. In Japan, if you're one of the 3 foreign players, you're heavily relied upon. You need to be able to get 20 and 10. So it's a lot more based on the foreign players in the Asian market in Japan, essentially.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so you found your footing, man.
I found my niche, man. I found my niche, and the older I get, the game gets a little bit easier. I know what I can do. I don't try to do things I can't do. I've been with the same team now. This will be my third season, so they know what I can do and can't do. So they kind of help me hide some of my flaws where they can and give me the ball in positions where I can be successful. And the last 2 years have been really good.
Over the last few years, I can't really pinpoint the time frame, so you have to help me on that. But you reinvented your body. You know what I mean? From what I saw you, we weren't in close contact during the time you put on 30 pounds of muscle in college. But once I saw you, once we became adults, I'm seeing the fat shed. You looking lean around here. You looking paper thin. Man, what goes into that? What do you have to do, I guess, to get your body looking the way you look now?
Yeah, man. So you can attest to this, man. Some people are built differently. Some people have to work a little harder. It's never come super easy to me. Mm-hmm. So yeah, like I've had my body's changed. I've been a bully ball 5 at times. I've been a stretch 4 at times where I've been just rail thin. Where no muscle but no fat either. I've gained bad weight at times trying to gain the good weight to where it's been sloppy body. But as I got older, I've tried to get as lean as I could because at this point, like, I'm not going to get much stronger. Putting on 15 pounds of muscle it's only going to help me so much, and it's going to hurt my joints, hurt my knees, which already hurt.
Yeah,
so I try to stay
mobility.
Yeah, man. I try to stay active with like my yoga, my diet, trying to just be lean and strong as I can. At this point, like I said, I mean, I'm playing against 28-year-olds in their prime. Like, I'm probably not going to win the strength battle, but as long as I can I'm just trying to keep myself out there, man, keep myself in the game. So
right,
just focusing on it.
One thing that I haven't asked, but which is a common human thing, the language barriers. Are there any at this point, or are you speaking 2 languages on me now?
Yeah, I mean, there always were language barriers. So this will be my 7th year in Japan. Kind of a complicated subject to explain, but a lot of guys that follow overseas basketball, you'll hear about guys getting naturalized to whatever country they're playing in order to kind of increase their value, so you don't count against the foreign quota that you can bring in. It increases your value. So I started to do that. I started learning Japanese 4 years ago, and I'm in the process of applying for Japanese citizenship, which will ultimately extend my career, higher my earning power, and just, because at that point I'm competing against Japanese bigs as opposed to American bigs, because we can still, does that make sense? So right now every team can have 3 foreign players, so those spots are valuable. Right. If I don't count against that quota, we can bring 3 more Americans in, and I don't count that, it makes my value go up. I'll no longer be, relied upon as heavily. I can kind of just do what I do. So to answer your question in a roundabout way, I started studying Japanese about 3 or 4 years ago, and I'm not fluent, but I can get around. I can converse a little bit, and it's changed like the experience over there. I mean, it's made it so much better. Like, it doesn't feel so alien anymore. Like I can live more of a normal life than usual. Because usually it feels like when you go to these overseas countries, sometimes it feels like doing a bid a little bit. Like you just you got to be there. You're stuck. You don't know the culture. If you don't like the culture of the food, you don't understand the language, it can get tough being overseas at times. People think it's just this dream job, and sometimes it is, but if you're in the wrong spot, it can be tough, and learning the language has made my experience a lot better.
I've heard, I'm not sure how true it is, but I've heard that those, I guess you would be considered a foreigner, at least at one point when you got over there, those who take the time to sort of get ingratiated with the culture and take the time to learn the language, that's pretty respected over there. It's well received. Is there any truth to that?
Absolutely, man. I mean, well, just because, like, the simplest reason is because if you're taking the time to learn the culture and the language, you're probably happier. Mm-hmm. And if you're happier, you're a lot more likely to be, like, people enjoy working with you. People, want to help you out, so, I mean, a couple of the stops that I hated the most overseas, I probably didn't like the culture, didn't like my life outside of basketball, and probably was a little grumpier than I would have been otherwise. And, it's just not a good look. So if you throw yourself into learning the language, learning the culture, trying to enjoy your life and really live your life, it's just going to carry around to your job, to your just overall happiness, which is going to, increase everything.
That's where it starts. 3 more things. I hate to be that guy, but I'm going to be that guy. So you're 33 years old, dog. Do you see the light at the end of the tunnel?
Well, that's what's complicated, man. If I let's say the nationality citizenship in Japan is not on the table for me, it's kind of it's interesting because my body is feeling it. I feel the light at the end of the tunnel in my body. But this last season was probably my best as far as the number, my numbers and overall contribution to team success. So it's like the way I feel, I would think maybe 1-2 more years. But who knows if I can stay healthy. I don't rely on my athleticism. So the slower I get, it's not really changing much. I'm still, I make shots and I think the game. But if I get this passport, it might be 3, 4, 5, 6 more years. I don't know, as long as those checks stop coming.
Yeah, it's gonna do. Will Creekmore Haslam. You'll be out there like Udonis out there, man.
Exactly, man. Just getting paid to give advice and speak a little Japanese. No, I don't. Honestly, AD, I'm ready to explore other things. There's more out there than basketball, but at the same time, once you're done with basketball, it's over. So
you're right.
It's like I want to take it as far as I can go, and then
you get all the meat off the bone. Huh?
Yep.
I hear that. Okay, so hobbies, man. What are some of the things that you get into that don't have anything to do with competing?
Hobbies, man. Honestly, trying to take care of my body. I mean, it's become a hobby. Like at first, it was just out of necessity, trying to stay healthy. But now I enjoy, keeping up to date with like the latest like health hacks. Ice, sauna, fasting, all the things. So I enjoy trying to, the health side aspect. Real estate. Been buying some properties in Tulsa. That's been fun. Trying to just learn different things because, like you said, there is a light in the tunnel. At some point, this thing's gonna stop bouncing.
Yeah.
Man, just trying to educate myself. I read about weird things. I just find an interest. Hear something on the podcast, and I'll just learn about it. Like we got so much time overseas. We practice for 2 hours, and then it's just like, all right,
the day's yours.
What are you gonna do? So, yeah, those 3 things.
Reading. I wouldn't even call it weird, but I was told. I don't even know who. Nobody told me directly. I heard it somewhere. They say a lot of times when you're reading books, particularly, get a hold of something that's like not in your wheelhouse.
For sure.
And then you can attest to that.
Yeah, some of the shit I read about is like, why?
Why are you putting this in your brain?
Yeah, but I mean, you should learning different things, keep your mind sharp, man. Especially like I said, there's so much time overseas. You can go a little crazy if you don't have something productive to do. There's only so much Netflix you can watch.
That's a fact. But I can watch a lot of it now.
I can watch a lot too. I have.
All right, here's how we'll close the show, man. I want you to think back in the archives. Okay, so at any level that you want to take it to, go to a game where y'all lost, but you had no business losing, and you still want to get back to this day if it was possible.
Easy money right there. Missouri Valley Championship game. My senior year in the tournament championship game. Indiana State, we are the number 1 seed. Wichita State was the number 2 seed, and Indiana State beat them after we had already punched our ticket to the finals. I remember it was probably. I remember we were all pretty happy, thinking that all right, we got this in the bag because Indiana State was not as good as us, and we just they stole it from us, and we didn't make it. We ended up being like one of the last 2 teams left out of the tournament. That was the tournament team. Should have made the tournament. Should have beat them. They were not better than us, and so that game, Indiana State, Missouri Valley Championship game.
Always an interesting question because you've done a whole lot with this basketball thing. You've allowed it to do a whole lot for you, and you've had a lot more success than the latter. But we always thinking about thinking about those.
Always, moments. Yeah, man. My pops is always bringing up like successes that I've had on my own. Remember that at all?
Right.
Like, do you remember when you had so and so against so and so? I'm like, I do not. I do remember when I went 0 for 7 from 3 against this bum, but I don't
there
remember
you go.
that one. Yeah.
That's how that goes. Shout out to the parents. They always going to give us the great side, right?
Yeah. Absolutely, man.
Well, listen, man. I'm a big fan of yours, dog. I look at you as family, and so it's not often we get to catch up. But I'm glad we were able to align on this one, man. And I'm rooting for you. Much success for the next 10, 11 years you feel like playing.
Yeah, man.
and your phone numbers never change, so I'm gonna be on your line, my man.
Do that, man. And shout out to the previous mentioned Coach Johnson, Lester Johnson, and Mike Gillum, man.
Yes,
R.I.P. to both of them.
Sure.
Very important people in both of our lives. So shout out to them. And good to see you, my guy.
Always love, man.
Yep.
Yes, sir.